What's up, dude? So here in the United States of America, ground beef is the second most purchased meat product behind chicken. It's cheap, it's delicious, and you're in desperate need of some new ways to cook it. But fear not, I am here to help. You have definitely clicked on the right video today. Now let's go! Okay, my friends, I've got 3 ground beef recipes for you today. First, we're starting with one of my favorite Thai dishes of all time, Larb. To start, we need to toast off some rice in a medium to low heat pan. This is traditionally what you do when you make larb, and it's not just for the flavor, it's really a textural thing as well. And we'll stir this pretty frequently because we don't want it to burn. And after 10 minutes, I'm gonna get that out into a molcajete, and I'll let this cool for another 10-15 minutes, at which point now I'm gonna start grinding it up. Wow, and that smell, it smells like popcorn right now. It smells really, really good. And once you have this sort of consistency, you are good to go. Take a shallot, top and tail, halvesies, peelsies, and then we'll just slice it across just like this. And then just straight into ice water for about 15 minutes to remove some of that harsh onion flavor and also crisp them up even more. Now before moving on, one great trick I've learned for larb is to have really crunchy lettuce. And in order to do that, what you can do is just take some leaves of romaine, and I'm just putting them in ice water here. And we're gonna leave these for about 30 minutes. And these are gonna get super crunchy, which just makes for a great textural bite when you have the larb. Now I'm dropping about 1.5 pounds of beef into a sort of low to medium heat pan. I think the real traditional way to make larb is with ground pork, but you could also use chicken as well. Heck, guys, you could even use a little lammy if you wanted. A sweet little lammy. Dump that last part. And what you wanna do now is cook this without any color whatsoever, which is why I'm keeping that heat low. Should only take about 10 minutes, I would imagine, or maybe even a little less. Only took about 6 or 7 minutes. And what I'm gonna do now is just push this through a strainer. Don't want too much of the fat. We're gonna dress it with other things. I'm gonna discard this juice, then drop in my beef. Now while that meat's warm, we're going in with fish sauce, white sugar, whole bunch of lime juice. Oh yeah, I like it nice and saucy. Diced Thai chilies. I don't like it that spicy, I'm only doing 2. Your rice powder that we made earlier. Let's give that all a really good mix. Let's add some shallots. And then we finish with a ton of just fresh herbs. This is basil, which I just picked from the garden outside actually. Traditionally you'd use Thai, but this is fine. Next I'm adding a bunch of fresh mint. You really don't need to be precise here. Just tear these herbs in, no big deal. Some nice leaves of cilantro and some green onion. Give that all a really good mix. And that's it, my friends, that is larb. Now be a good cook before serving to your guests. Taste. And just do a touch more fish sauce. Another half a lime, but it is banging. And the spice is mild, which for me is perfect. It's like a little, essentially like lettuce wrap, lettuce taco. Enjoy. Nothing wrong with that. Wow. Every time I eat larb, I'm like, why don't I make this more? I associate it with summer. It's really refreshing, nice and uplifting. It's a little bit sweet, it's really sour, it's spicy, it's salty.
I like how acidic it is. Usually ground beef in the summers between buns and cheese. This is a nice change of pace.
Really good. Now, before we get to the second recipe, let me introduce Made in Cookware, who I'm proud to say is the sponsor of this video. I've been using their pots and pans for years now, and they've truly become my favorite cookware to use in this kitchen. And it's not just me that puts my trust in these pans. Made in Cookware is used in over 2,000 top-rated restaurants and hotel groups across America. And they have over 100,000 5-star reviews to prove it. In today's video, all I've been using is Made In's carbon steel frying pan, which is an absolute workhorse in the kitchen. These award-winning frying pans are made in Sweden in a family-owned factory that's been operating since the late 18th century. They heat up really quickly, they hold their heat really well, and they're light enough to easily maneuver around the stovetop, which I love. They can even go over an open fire up to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a good reason carbon steel cookware is loved by chefs around the world. They truly are some of the best pans you can have in your kitchen. I use it a lot for proteins, you know, fish, chicken, beef, pork, lamb, anything like that. They do great sears, but you can also use them for vegetables and other starchy dishes as well. Check out the carbon steel collection as well as Made In's other cookware by clicking the link down in the description to save on your order. Thank you, Made In, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the recipe. The second recipe on our list is one of the best ways you can use some pita bread that you have lying around. It's Areyas. I want to make this recipe really easy for you guys, so we're going to start by using a food processor. But if you don't have one of these, you can obviously just use a knife. Lid off, and throw in some Italian parsley, some rough chopped yellow onion, and a few cloves of garlic. We'll pop the lid on and blend. Get in there and scrape that down. And blend again. Until we have a sort of rough chopped mixture just like this. I'm gonna add that to my ground beef. along with cumin and coriander, onion powder, turmeric, allspice, cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, and salt and pepper. And I'm just gonna get in there with my mitt and give this a really good mix. I'm doing this with beef today, but if you wanted to do it with lamb, that would also be really good. Now, while the meat and spices get to know each other a little bit, we're gonna make this tahini yogurt dipping sauce that are for the Areyes. Start with tahini, and what I'm gonna do here is add just a little splash of boiled water just to loosen that up. Otherwise, it can be really hard to mix. So I'm gonna work the tahini first with the water until I got this looser paste form now. Next, I'm going in with plain yogurt. You could use Greek if that's all you got. Lemon juice, just a touch of cumin and coriander, good pinch of salt, and a couple cloves of fresh garlic. I'm just gonna microplane them in. We're gonna give that a good mix and your sauce is done. I would just keep that in the fridge until you're ready to use it. Now just take a few pita breads. And if you wanna hear something funny, we actually bought 3 different pita breads. Had to keep going back to the store for this video because, like, if you ask me, pita, right? Splits, always makes a pocket. That's the whole point of pita. None of these split. None of these are pocketing pitas. This one isn't either. What the hell, dude? This is a flatbread. It's a flatbread. And all I gotta do is cut these in half. Now, I'm gonna take a little bit of my meat here, about that much, maybe a little less, and I'm just gonna get it roughly into the shape of the pita pocket. It really doesn't need to be that well shaped at this point, something like this. And then I'll just open up my pita pocket, slide that in, and then from here, I'm just gonna stuff it in a little bit so it gets in all the crevices, and then flatten and push like this so it comes all the way up. Just something like this, really doesn't need to be perfect. That's all good. Now bring your pan up to medium heat, and in we go with the oil, good amount. And I'm gonna first start by searing that meat edge, just like this. And once I have a nice little sear on the bottom like that, I'll lay them down on their side and continue to sear. Just about 3 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a flip. Just when they're nice and golden brown like so. Same deal on the other side. And once the other side looks good, we'll go ahead and remove, and I'll sear off the rest of them. This recipe made 6. And once they're all nicely brown, I'm just gonna finish them off in a 350 degrees Fahrenheit oven. But keep in mind, if you put a really thin layer of meat, which you can do, you might not even need to have them go in the oven at all. Just about 7-8 minutes in the oven. Go ahead and plate these up and serve it with the sauce on the side. Areyas, here we go. Oh, he hates it when it touches food. Yeah, they look good. Dip it in the sauce.
Double dip.
As Marcus would say, nothing wrong with that.
It's a good alternative to a burger if you're tired of making burgers.
A little crispy pita, the soft meat with all those spices, a lot of flavor going on. And then this garlic tahini yogurt sauce really ties it all together. I bet with lamb, it'd be next level, but this is really good.
Make it.
The third and final recipe I have for you today is my personal favorite. We're gonna make some Cajun dirty rice. For the dirty rice, we're gonna start with what takes the longest, which is this Cajun roux. It's a really dark roux. It's very special. Here's how you make it. I'm starting by putting a cup of neutral oil into a cold pan, then turning on the heat to about medium high. After 2 minutes, I'll drop the heat to medium low and I'll add in my flour. Heating that oil up first basically expedites your roux, so it won't take as long to cook. So just start by mixing in all that flour, no lumps. I like to use a whisk. The ratio of flour to oil is 1 cup to 1 cup, although I like to do a little bit more flour, so I'm just adding in 2 more tablespoons. As you can see right here, it looks like really wet sand. Now you don't have to stand here and constantly stir this roux, but definitely don't walk away from it either. While that roux cooks, we can make our rice. Here I have 3 cups going into a big pot, and I'm gonna rinse this out 3 times. I like to just put a little water, and I'll give it a mix like this so that rice will grind against itself, releasing the starch. Then I'll fill with more fresh water. Then I'll just dump that off and repeat the process 3 times. I then put my rice in a strainer just to get all the liquid off so I can get the ratio of water to rice right. Now I'm dumping it into my pot. For regular long grain rice, my ratio is 1 cup of rice to 1.5 cups of liquid. In this case, I'm doing chicken stock, as this is dirty rice. You could probably get away with water if you want, but chicken stock is definitely appropriate. So that was 4.5 cups of stock for 3 cups of rice. And of course, if you want to use a rice cooker, that's absolutely fine. Today, I'm just doing it in a pot. Works just as well. In fact, I'm starting to like this method more. That's another video. Turning the heat on high now, and we're gonna bring this to a boil to start. You can tell when it's come to a boil because it has this massive amount of steam coming out, like, oh, hey, is that boiling? I wonder if that's boiling. Like if I were to come in, I'd be like, oh, hey, is this boiling? Oh, I guess so. I suppose it is. Dump that. Dump the whole part. Now we're gonna turn this down to just a touch over low. Very, very, very low. And you're gonna set a 10-minute timer. Very important, 10 minutes exactly. Like, it'll be like walking. Once your time has elapsed, just kill that heat and let this sit for another 15 or 20 minutes with the lid still on and let it steam. That is how you get that perfect fluffy rice. Don't open the lid, just don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't even let grandma touch it. So I worked for a few chefs from New Orleans, and they had this thing they would say in the kitchen. If you're from Louisiana, let me know if this is true, but they would call out a hombre. Hombre is like, I guess maybe like their version of dude, where you can be like excited, dude, or like sad, dude, curious, dude. But they're like hombre. You know what I'm saying? Let me know. I could be totally wrong, I don't know. So I've been stirring this roux pretty frequently for about 30 minutes now. I would say it's in between milk chocolate and sort of dark chocolate in color. And it smells like really deeply toasted popcorn, like almost on its way to becoming burnt. It's kind of a haunting smell, really, it's powerful. Now you could even take it a little further than this, but I'm happy with where it's at and I don't wanna burn it, so I'm gonna let it be. At this point, we wanna get it out of the pan because it will keep cooking in there, and then we'll just let this chill out at room temp. Now while that rice steams, let's prepare our ground beef. I'm adding ground cumin, little chili powder, cayenne, salt, and pepper. And I'm just gonna give this a little mix with the spices first. If you want, you could just throw this all in the pan, sprinkle the spices on top of the beef if you wanna skip washing this bowl. Medium high heat pan with just a little bit of oil. Drop in our beef. And I sort of just crudely smash this down to start, just like this. Just trying to get some color on it before I flip it over. A few minutes of browning, I'm gonna flip it over, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm really gonna start breaking it up. Next, we're going in with the holy trinity, which is onions, bell pepper, and celery, which, as many of you know, I'm not a huge fan of, but here it's good. I use it sometimes. We're gonna go ahead and cook all these vegetables down now, probably for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now the time has elapsed. The rice has been here steaming. And as you can see, perfectly cooked, nice and fluffy. I'm just gonna stir it a little bit to break it up, and then we can just set that aside while we finish the dish. After 10 minutes, our vegetables are a little bit soft and translucent, but they still retain a little bit of texture and crunch. It's now time for the garlic. Straight in. Another 2 minutes, I'm adding a little bit of thyme. That's fresh thyme. Let's work that in. Now I'm going in with 1/3 of a cup of our roux. You can save the rest of the roux in the fridge and use it for various other Cajun cooking. Let's stir that in. And now here, in we go with more chicken stock. We're gonna add little by little. Essentially what we're doing here is making a gravy, and then we're gonna add the rice back in. So bring that back to a boil, and you'll see it really thicken up like it's doing right now. You can see as I drag my spatula through there. Add more stock. Depending on how salty your chicken stock is, you might want to add more salt. Definitely give it a taste. Add the rest of our stock. Now bring it back to the boil again. Final taste for seasoning. And finally, in we go with the rice. Now, you can make this as wet or as dry as you want by adding less or more rice. I'm starting with 4 cups, and I'm gonna work this in and see how I feel about it. That's kind of a preference thing, right? When you're doing Cajun cooking, there are so many variations, you know, people do things differently. Just do what you like, you know? Personally, and Marcus as well, we like it a little saucy. My mind goes to Cajun risotto right now when I'm just looking at this. At this point, I'm gonna turn off the heat. Just remember, as this sits, it's also gonna thicken up even more. So I'm actually gonna leave it like this. I feel like I love the ratio of rice to beef and vegetables. Here we go, Marcus, dirty rice.
Dirty rice.
Careful, it is a little hot. Nice.
Texture's really nice.
This is a textural experience. It's interesting because it's like that sauciness of gravy distributed amongst the rice and the beef and the vegetables.
Flavorful, ricey goop. It's a great way to eat rice and beef.
Spices are all there without being overpowering. It's just kind of warming, which is great. I'm a sucker for these kind of things. Total sucker. Yum.
Those are delicious.
Oh my God. Good one. Make it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, my friend. If you got some value from this video, be sure to subscribe because we have a lot more helpful cooking content coming soon. And if you want 55 written recipes, definitely get my Master in the Making ebook. That'll be linked down in the description, along with a bunch of tools and equipment I love to use here on this channel. And if you want to keep learning today, here are 2 more ground meat recipes I think you are really going to appreciate. Until next time, you know I love you no matter.